Okay, this is a example of trying to use FreeShow to send multiple text boxes to multiple outputs per slide. And what we've got here is a song or a show, and on some of these slides, once we get into this, is for bilingual presentations, or basically, like I said, two sets of content, two text boxes per slide, going to, over here we see in the output preview for bilingual, I've got two outputs configured. Now this is the slide that's currently looking at, and you can see that the content is sort of overlaid. Now it's not as bad as that would look to edit that. I'll show you that in just a second, but first of all, the way this is done is gone to settings and then selected outputs, and normally you can have a when you do an add an output, you've got a default, and then you add one and it asks you, do you want a normal monitor or stage monitor? And most of the stuff online just talks about one each. You know, stage might be music for musicians, and then normal might be song lyrics. Now I chose normal for both of these outputs you see here, and I labeled them English left, Spanish right, for two TVs that we have side by side up front. So that's our bilingual plan, is to have both languages to look just like this up front. People can sing whichever one they want, and those that are learning one or the other language, it's a handy way to do that in parallel that way. So as you each one of these, like this is the one selected right now, and then this is the one being edited now, and I really haven't made them any different. It does, I use the default style on each one. The online tools talk about selecting a certain style and using that to somehow direct it to the right output. I didn't find it work that way. But it does seem to know what's connected to the computer sometimes, because the only thing that changes is the output screen. When you have different monitors hooked up, sometimes this will change. But anyway, you basically get those two monitors established in the main. Then you go back to, say, show, just to get back to the main show of this version here. This was the one I started with. This had text combined on each slide, and it only had one screen over in the preview window. But now that I've set up the two outputs and two screens, it shows everything that way, but you know, it duplicates. So when I went to convert this particular slideshow to this one, you can see they're shorter because I've separated them out. So what basically you did is you go to edit mode on a given slide. So when I was in this one here, I, for instance, went to this slide, I hit edit, and then I duplicated this text box. And in one text box, of course, I deleted the Spanish, and in the other one I deleted the English. And that's why I go back to show for a second, pick this one that I edited for dual screens. That's why, of course, it's shorter. Each one only has one or the other. Now, this shows the preview, and the way that was done was, now that when we edit this slide, it shows it this way at first, but what you do is you go over here to items, and down here we see that one text box, there's two text boxes in there. I click that to highlight that one, and now when I mouse into it, you can see that it's easy to edit without seeing the clutter of the Spanish. And then while you're in here deleting the Spanish, if you're converting one of the slides I showed before, you right click somewhere in the box and you pick specific outputs, and I had to just click on this one and it put a checkbox there, and I made sure this one didn't have one. Now you have to play around with that a little bit. I'll click out here once to get rid of that. Sometimes you have to play around with that to get it to have one checkbox each. Now when I mouse over it and I've got this second text box selected in the lower right. Now you can see the English is blurred, so it's easy to edit this. You can also notice it's showing that I've got the second text box. I've got, if I right click, it's in select outputs, it's got the checkbox by my, what's planned to be my right TV up front or screen. So that's another way to sort of see as you select each one to double check. Mouse over, you can see it has that one assigned to the left output. So that's why then when you preview this, you've got those up there. Again, you can go to show, and as we're showing this, I'm going to just hit the right arrow here and advance to the right. You can see it's previewing that it's going to keep showing the various. Now there's a blank one there. Now I go to this one and you can see the English and Spanish. So that's how that was set up. Now whenever you go to, whenever I take this, back this up and send it to, it's not working right now because I don't, this is a laptop without the proper screens, but when you click on that to present, to actually show it, it may have you click on, it may bring up a screen similar to Windows screen layout and show you what monitors or outputs are connected to that computer, and then you may have to click, and I'll hopefully be able to figure out how to click on the correct one that goes to the left TV up front, and they'll show up on the two TVs. So that's the next step, but this is how to get it to that point. And one final thing, I did learn about backup. This is off the topic, but you know, if you don't go into setting, now I'm just talking about file backup and saving right now. There's a confusing thing to me in here where we've got to export and import over here. Well, I've found the best thing to do is instead of those, get in the setup mode here, which you go back and forth between show, your main show mode, and setup by doing this. So you click this, go over here to files, and that's where you set up as the excellent YouTuber that you find talking about FreeShow goes into depth on this, where it's going to store things and how often to do autosave. I thought I had this set up already. I don't want to lose anything, so I'm going to autosave. And he recommends daily backups. Anyway, down here at the bottom is what I like, is to backup everything and then restore. So that's how I'll transfer this to the church computer. I'm going to go back to show for a minute. I'm just going to make sure it saved those changes. So I'm going to edit or file. I'm just going to do a file save here real quick. So once we've got everything saved, and it should auto save, and I've noticed every time I quit, do a file quit or X out, it does an automatic save. I don't know if that's a setting or not. But anyway, now that I'm ready to get this ready to put on a thumb drive, I'm going to say back up everything. And it asked me where to put it. Now it's been putting it in backups. So, and it's my time is 10:55 a.m. and so it's got the time up here, and that's going to be a folder. I'm just going to I'll back up one level, and you see that it just created that folder, and that's got everything in it. And then when I want to restore, I'll just store that whole folder on the thumb drive. And then when I want to let's close this out here, whenever I want to take that thumb drive to the other church, I'll open FreeShow, and I'll just do the settings, and then go to files. Don't do the import. You know, import is it'll bring in all kinds of stuff. It'll bring in ProPresenter, Easy Worship, all those things. But I won't do that. I'll do the restore here, and it'll wipe whatever really it'll wipe whatever's on that computer, so you want to make sure you're not wiping out stuff that others have been doing when you do it that way. Or back that one up first, do a full backup, and then restore from your thumb drive, and then if you get in trouble and somebody says, where are my edits, at least they can restore that session. And they recommend sometimes putting those on the hard drive, not just a thumb drive. So that's it. Thank you very much. I hope this helps somebody. And if you know any tidbits on when you plug in, and I believe you're going to have at least 3 monitors in this setup, because it's going to want to put this screen on your primary monitor, and then if you have 2 extra outputs, HDMI, etc., going to 2 other displays, if it has that minimum of 3, it shouldn't give you an error message when you do this and start the show. Mine's not even trying to show it because it doesn't have anything besides this screen. When I hooked in a separate external monitor, it gave me a window saying, hey, which one of these displays do you want this on? And so that was an error message I got. So then if it's not even bothering to give me an error message now, but if I had 3 monitors, I don't yet know whether it'll put this one automatically where I want it or give me an option, or I believe it'll have a couple there and it'll say pick one of these, and I'll figure out whether the left one really goes to my left TV for English or not. And then if it doesn't work, I'll get in the habit of clicking the right one. And I think you only do that once per session. I don't know if you've got to do that every single morning or if it remembers it or not. If anybody has a comment on that, please let me know. I'd sure appreciate that. And that's all for today. Hope this helps somebody.